I survived 100 days in hardcore modded Minecraft. This world is filled with mutants, dragons, and new dimensions. I have 2 goals for these 100 days: complete all the overworld quests and build a base. Day 1, I immediately found a village and began looting. The first thing I found in these chests were a farmer's hat, and in the other one I found a leather worker's apron. Then after that I did the basics: make a wooden pickaxe, collect stone, and make stone tools. With these tools I went exploring. I found this monastery that had an illusioner. Now this guy blinded me and summoned clones, so I had to just run away. Along this travel I found this weird graveyard looking structure. Now these chests were actually pretty nice. I found an Unbreaking 4 iron chestplate and I made my way inside, where I collected this chest and I used all the string to make a backpack for all the useless stuff. Day 2, turns out this house had a basement in there, and in this basement there were 2 villagers that were trapped. That's none of my business because I found protection 5 diamond leggings and a diamond helmet. I'm already getting kinda stacked. I also grabbed the brewing stand, smelted some iron, and used that iron to upgrade my backpack. Then after looting some more, it was time to go outside. That's when I got attacked by this crocodile. This guy lowered me down to like 3 hearts, and when I was running away, turned out another bird was also chasing me. The rest of this day I was running away and I found another graveyard structure, and in this chest I found a Curse of Binding diamond chestplate. I also made a shield and stupidly equipped this chestplate. Well, after that, at least I could make a bunch of iron tools, and I went down to the basement one more time, and in here I hit the jackpot. There were some netherite leggings just laying there for me. Day 3, I made a bucket and started going back to the mainland. I was sick and tired of being on this island, but right before that I checked this pirate ship out and realized there were way too many mobs to fight, so I just kept moving. And literally 3 structures in a row, I found another one of these graveyard structures, but this one had a golden apple, a wither skeleton head, and then I hit another gold mine. This chest had a ton of bottles of enchanting and a totem of undying. It turns out I don't even have to hold the totem, it just goes in your charm slot. That night I also found this thing called a goddess statue. No clue what it does, I'm just gonna collect a bunch of spirit orbs. And on day 4 I found a perfect place to start building a house, so I cleared this entire area of all its reeds. There were also a ton of bears around, so it was time to massacre the entire bear family. They ended up not doing a lot of damage. I also figured out that I'm trapped between 2 villages. But while I was here, it was time to collect a bunch of spruce logs, these hay bales, and even this blast furnace in this guy's home. I then made a sleeping bag and went to sleep for the first time. Then on day 5 to 7, it was time to make some shelter. I started by clearing the dirt away, and then I grabbed a bunch of oak logs from the giant tree behind me and made a frame to start building this house. It was gonna be nothing too serious, I just wanted a small starter base that I can expand upon. I also killed my first monster and finished the roof. Day 8, I just expect there to be so much loot, so I made a ton of chests and sprinkled the entire house with as much of this as I can and some armor stands for decoration. I also smelted whatever I could and started a nice little farm next to my house. Day 9, I collected enough seeds to fill out this farm, then I planted my sugar cane as well right in front of the water. After that, this was basically the house. Just so I never get lost, I made a waypoint for my house, and then I started collecting a bunch of wool so I could make a nice new bedroom. Day 10 to 11, finally time to explore some more. I made a gold backpack, now I had a ton of storage, and while exploring I found this weird dungeon that had twisty staircases. Of course I went down, and this turned out to be an underground dungeon. This place was filled with spawners, and turned out these spawners give you spirit orbs. That's what I'm gonna need to collect a bunch of. I also found this destroyed library area where I grabbed a bunch of lapis and a free enchantment table. This backpack is the best thing ever, so when I started making my way down, I was collecting a ton of loot. I even got a brand new shield. After that, I made it to the bottom floor, and this is when tragedy struck. These skeletons were all enchanted, and they knocked me into the lava. I thought I was gone for sure, but my totem popped, and then I was able to place water down and barely make it. After hiding for a bit, they despawned, and I was able to check this chest out, and I got 2 diamonds. That was definitely not worth it. But before I left, I collected these cold deepstone and these expetrified orbs, and put every single thing I had in my backpack. Day 12 to 14, I found a giant pillager structure and came back to my home to complete my first quest, which was to make a light and dark chest. I got this thing called a bounty board, placed it underneath my bed, and I went mining all the way down to bedrock to place my light and dark chest there. I needed a bunch more pickaxes though, because I had no idea. So I gathered some food while I was at it, made some bookshelves, placed a diamond, and went to the deep dark. I'm not even joking when I say this, I was actually shaking the entire time I was here. Luckily for me, I got this thing called a Skulko Finder so I could find where these monsters are. Some of these ores also drop diamond blocks, so I was able to make all diamond tools and a chest. Do you guys see how many of those mobs are out there? I managed to take out a bunch of these zombies pretty easily, and turns out these wardens are actually way easier than what's gonna be in the new Minecraft update. I just had to stay in my hole and I was easily able to take these guys out. I think I took down like 4 of these guys, and one of these dudes was even enchanted. defeated this guy right here. 4 wardens down. I'm pretty sure if I even got a little bit closer, they would all one-tap me. Day 14 to 15, I put a bunch of the junk away and only kept the most important things. I also grabbed a few lapis for enchanting, made a light and dark chest, and got out of there. I was not ready to spend a single more minute in there. As soon as I got home, I dug a nice little hole to get started on an enchantment area, but while I was getting ready, I looked at all my quest rewards and I got 1 free netherite ingot. Then I was able to complete this enchantment setup, replace the floors with deep slate to make it look nice and sleek, and it was done. I enchanted my sword, got looting 3 on it, then I enchanted my netherite leggings, I got protection 4. Day 16 to 17, I tested out my looting 3 sword, got protection 3 on my helmet, then I collected a bunch of lavender for purple dye so I could make a waystone in front of my house. While the stone was smelting, I went down to mine, and I got these things called Stellar Arcanums. Now, combining these with Spectrified Orbs can make your items indestructible. The main reason I went mining was for obsidian. I would need 3 to make this waystone, and I was able to place this bad boy right in front of my house. No more getting lost. Day 18, I made a bunch of warp scrolls, enchanted a chestplate just in case my curse of binding one broke, and then I upgraded this workbench to crack a ton of geodes. Right after that, I made a diamond shield and I was ready to go out exploring one more time. This is when I found my first battle tower. Now these things are cool. There was a ton of spawners, and I got this thing called a magnetic ring, which was super annoying, so I took it off anyway. These are just regular mobs, so I wasn't too worried. I also got this really cool thing called a Heart of the Earth, and I made it all the way to the top, which had a waystone just laying there. Day 19, I found an underground village, clutched it down there, grabbed some flint and feather, made my own arrows, and then I realized I could just buy it from this guy over here, and then I found another one of these spiral dungeons. Day 20 to 21, I was able to break through a bunch of these spawners and make this thing called an exquisite ring, which made me non-hostile to regular piglins. I also mined a bunch of these Stellar Arcanums and found another dungeon combined to this dungeon. This is where I got some necklaces, and some straggling chests had an enchanted golden apple and a fortune 2 pickaxe. Now that my backpack was getting filled, it was time to go back home and dump off all this stuff. While I was there, I made a netherward farm, disenchanted a bunch of my stuff. So I don't know which mod it is, but one of these things spawned these overpowered mobs. This guy launched me all the way into the air. I was so lucky I landed in the water and I just managed to kill him. Day 22 to day 23, I brewed a bunch of potions of fire resistance, made a nether portal, and jumped straight into the nether. As soon as I was there, I got attacked by this crimson mosquito. Dude, this thing was disgusting. After killing this hoglin, I made my way into this nether structure, and in these chests, I found something called a withered tome. When I activated it, it gave me like 7 levels. Right after that, I was being chased by a piglin that was launching potions at me, so I jumped down to the structure and I started trading with these piglin locals when a piglin brute saw me, and it was basically game over. These guys started running up at me and I had to build up and defend myself, but I was able to take these guys all out pretty easily once I got up here. Then I was sick of the nether and I teleported back home. Once I got home, I made these things called eternal stellas, and I didn't know you could use them, and it repaired my curse of binding armor. I'm the stupidest person alive. Day 24, I went overworld exploring. I found this really cool savanna biome and this weird stone tree structure. This place had a bunch of ores though, it was kind of cool. After taking some coal, I found these things called silver gliders, which look like mini dragons. I also killed this death worm, then I got humbled real quick. This tiny little snake gave me poison 3 and almost killed me. I got revenge on this tiny little rattlesnake and I found these huge giant dragon bones. That rattlesnake must have done this. Day 25, do you remember those overpowered mobs? Well, here's another one of these guys, and this dude was so OP. After I killed it, it gave me like 20 different advancements. Just look at this. I don't even know what level of protection this gear is. Of course, I had to put it on, and then I found this flower temple, but I got a weird achievement, so I knew there was another structure behind there, and this place was ridiculous. I was running away from these netherite wearing piglins. These dudes were so OP. You know, I guess I just wanted to die that day, because I went down to challenge these guys, I broke down the spawners, and then I realized how strong these dudes were. Just with the pickaxe, it got me down to 1 heart. I managed to sneak past and finally make it through, and I was able to heal and keep exploring. Day 26 to day 27, I made my way down to another dungeon, and in the bottom floor, I saw a level 5 dragon lair. You can see the tail, this thing was huge. So it was time for me to go right back home. I then came home, got infinity on my bow, put power 3 on that bad boy, protection 4 on my boots, and I disenchanted a bunch of this OP gear I got. Day 28, I went grave robbing. Now, don't be mad at me, but this place had some really insane loot. I even got a Fortune 3 book from here. That night, I was just killing a bunch of mobs, hoping one of those lightning struck guys would spawn, and they did. This guy dropped an indestructible bow, which I was gonna disenchant later. That was kind of disappointing until I met this dude. This was Father Dinben, and if you thought any of these mobs were hard, I spent an entire day just critical striking this dude, and he still took no damage at all. But it was all worth it. This guy dropped 2 pieces of netherite netherite armor, and the chest plate was protection 6 and indestructible. So now I just gotta get this curse of binding chest plate off of me, and I found the perfect guy to help me do it. There was this pillager that I just used to whittle down my armor all the way while I was just eating a bunch of food, and once it broke it, I put my new chest plate on and took this bad boy out. Then I used this Eternal Stella to repair all of my armor, and by day 29 I already almost had full netherite armor. Then on day 30, I put protection 5 on my netherite helmet, disenchanted a bunch of this leather armor that had mending, and I also disenchanted that indestructible bow. Then I used my 1 netherite ingot to get full netherite armor. Thank God for those mending books. I put them on my helmet and my boots, and now they were basically indestructible too. I also got rid of my bad omen effect and made a ton of golden apples. That night I met another one of these guys called Rose the Odd Smelling, and I felt really stupid. Since this thing just dropped an indestructible pair of boots that I could have used my netherite on, I disenchanted a few more stuff and I made this thing called a Charm of Treasure Hunter. Day 31, I made a tool belt, a bunch of potions of fire resistance, and then I started messing around with my sword on Tetra, and I completely ruined my sword. It got rid of a bunch of that Slayer enchantment, but it still has looting 3, which is kind of nice. I then bought a bunch of these bottles of enchanting from Mr. Goblin over here, and I put mending on my netherite leggings. Then I moved my nether portal pretty far away to see if I could get a better spawn, and it was even worse. Day 32, I found this nice little mushroom village where I killed this piglin brute that had a mushroom head on it. I then used this waystone to come back home because my pickaxe needed to be honed. Whatever I did to the sword, I also did to the pickaxe, and after mining a bunch and grabbing some loot, I was able to hone this bad boy. Still have no idea how to work this mod, but I came home and I think I fully broke my pickaxe. Well, I mean, at least I got a new handle anyway. This is why you should always do your research, because my diamond sword is now a silver greatsword for some reason. Well, at least I got a brand new diamond backpack. Look at the space of that. I also made this warp stone for infinite teleportation, and I somehow turned my sword into a lead greatsword. But the good news is, I got this feeding upgrade thing for my backpack, and now as long as I had food in there, it would just feed me. I didn't even have to do anything. Day 35, I wanted to test this sword out, so I went to a battle tower, and this thing took forever to recharge. This sword was not optimal at all. I still managed to get on top of this battle tower anyway, and while exploring later on that night, I found another lightning struck mob. This guy was kind of a tank, and I had to start using my bow, but while I was fighting it, I got hunted down by this mutant skeleton. And what's funny is, these guys are weaker than that little zombie over there. I then managed to pick up all the mutant skeleton limbs and then kill Sandy and pick up a sharpness 5 sword. Day 36 to day 38, it was time to take on another pillager tower. I'm now just fully using that sharpness 5 sword. It was kind of easy taking down the bow guys, and then a bunch of these vindicators started pouring out. But that's not even the worst part. Somewhere, there was a bunch of evokers hiding, and these guys just kept sending vexes, and these vexes are so annoying to take care of. The first floor was kind of tough, but I managed to take all those guys out and go up to the second floor where I grabbed even more loot and this thing called the Heart of the Golem. Now this thing was pretty nice. I then made it all the way to the top, took out some of these last few vindicators, and I turned everything into blocks. Now my backpack was filled to the brim. I also got these tattered tomes and a bunch of bottles of enchanting. When I meant loot, I meant a lot of loot. There was so much armor for me to disenchant for better gear, and I also got like 10 different totems. This leather armor had some crazy unbreaking levels, so bye-bye lead great sword. And I also enchanted my shield. Day 39 to 41, I explored that really hard dungeon again, the one with those crazy piglins. After taking the guys on the top out, there was a huge hole that I jumped down in. Good thing I brought my potions of fire resistance. Now I think this structure was called a foundry, and this place had a ton of mobs. There was a bunch of these foundry guardians, which are just really OP blazes. There was also a ton of giant magma cubes and these hoglin riding withers. But the chests alone made this entire journey worth it. There were tons of netherite ingot and even this spellstone called a blazing core. Then as I was looting, I got dragged in by something. It was like a pretty big mob. I had no idea it was doing so much damage. It turned out to be a mutant blaze though. This thing was really dangerous. It keeps launching you around, but it wasn't too tanky. So once I took it out, I had a huge scare. It slammed me straight to the ground, but good thing I ate my golden apple. Now that that guy was done, I looted the rest of these chests, which were pretty stacked, and I even had so much loot. My backpack was getting filled again. So I came home, made 10 netherite ingots, and I also checked out what these tier 2 chests were like. These were so big, so I made sure to use them for my enchanted books, and I put looting 5 on my new diamond sword. Day 43 to day 45, I made a bunch of obsidian ingots to craft an obsidian skull, and after combining that with an eternal stella, I had full fire immunity as long as it was in my inventory. So now I can take on the tier 5 dragon. Just for fun, I attacked this tier 5 fire dragon head to head, but it all started going wrong when it launched me into the lava. Thank God I had that obsidian skull. This entire fight, I was more worried that my helmet was gonna break. It was kind of getting low. This guy did a ton of damage to my armor. far. But once I got on the same level as the dragon, I just meleeed it with my brand new sword and I was able to easily take it out and grab every single piece of its loot. I got really lucky. Turns out this dragon was a female, and aside from the huge amount of scales, I also got a fire dragon egg. So I set up a nice little area to hatch this thing. Then I waited for this bad boy to hatch, and I used this dragon horn to keep it safe until I could feed it and level it up. But while I was there, I also upgraded my netherite bow, lured this sheep over so I could have a constant supply of new dragon meal. Day 46 to day 48, I found this huge tower, and on top of that, I grabbed the waystone and also found a paraglider in the chest. So I decided to use that to come all the way down, and I placed the waystone a little bit lower. Turns out it was on top of a dungeon, so I went down there. I got this thing called a 4-leaf clover, and when I got all the way to the bottom, I also accidentally killed a goblin. I then managed to clear this entire dungeon and teleport all the way back home, where I honed my pickaxe. Still have no clue what it does, but in the meantime, I made an automatic composter for a bunch of seeds I had. Right after that, I massacred a bunch of these sheep, made a bunch of dragon meal, and fed my dragon for the first time. Day 49 to 50, I made tons of Eyes of Ender, put Punch 3 and Indestructible on my bow, and went out to find the stronghold. Along my travels, I found a slime island, got attacked by some sirens, and I also found a ice dragon's nest where I destroyed this ice dragon just meleeing it. Once this bad boy died, I picked up a bunch of ice dragon scales, and speaking of ice, I also found an ice maze biome. This is going to be really important for a quest later. I then broke my way into this portal and finally found the portal room, which I placed a waystone in front of. Right after that, I placed my eyes on the portal and jumped in. Turns out the end spawns are a little bit different. I was just in an obsidian box with no blocks or ender pearls, so I had to teleport back out, grab some blocks, and then come back. I also found this giant tower in the end, which I climbed up to, activated the waystone, grabbed whatever was in the chest, and I used this vantage point to take out every single one of the summoning crystals. Right after that, I jumped down to fight the dragon, but there was a mutant enderman in my way, and this guy started summoning a bunch of these shadow clones, and once I killed it, I thought my hardcore world was done for. This thing just kept dragging me in and pushing me out. I thought I was gonna fall into the void, but I survived. I took out the dragon. All the XP went down the portal, but I was able to grab the dragon egg at least. Right after that, it was now the hunt for the elytra wings, so I took the portal outside to the end islands, grabbed my quest reward, which was a lightning dragon egg, and I finally, after 2 days, found an end city. So I knew that the end cities were kinda stacked, but I had no idea how stacked they were. I had so much loot, I put them all into a shulker box, and that shulker box in my backpack. I also found the end ship and got even more loot and this thing called an extra dimensional eye, and the elytra of course, which I teleported back home to and made a bunch of tier 4 chests to put all of my new loot inside of. Day 55, I made the elytra indestructible, made a ton of firework, and then it was raining, so it was time to hatch my dragon egg. While I was waiting, I enchanted this pickaxe, made it fortune 3 indestructible, efficiency 9, and made it netherite as well. And after that, my dragon finally hatched. Day 56 to day 57, a lot of things happened. I found this giant temple, which I looted the top floor chest only. I also found a waystone right next to it, and then I met Barako the Sun Chief. This was his village. Lucky for me, he was getting attacked by a cyclops, so he's already weakened. So right now, the only thing I had to do was take out some of his minions, and then Baraka would be wide open for the kill. I managed to take this guy out pretty easy, teleport near the end portal, and take my quest reward. The reason I'm here is because there's an ice maze biome, and I need this to grab a shell horn and summon Captain Cornelia. Along the way, I found this frozen chest that I couldn't open, and then I finally found the structure I needed, a shipwreck. And after taking these guys out, I managed to pick up the shell horn and grab a bunch of really cool treasure. Now with that horn, I just blew it in front of the water, and then I got a message that was saying Captain Cornelia was awakened. Out of the water, this weird cosplayer, scuba diver looking dude started popping up, and it was really easy to take out. It even started summoning a bunch of drowns, but those guys just went down to the water. So I have no idea if I could even call this a boss battle, but Captain Cornelia was a really easy kill. I grabbed this frozen key and I used it on that weird chest that I couldn't open before. Inside this chest, there was this thing called a Rune of the Storm. No idea what that does, but I got a really cool advancement. I also then took my quest reward for Captain Cornelia and got this nice little scuba gear. I really didn't like the way it looked, so I'm probably never gonna use it. So I just came right back home, made a bunch of tier 3 chests, and put a bunch of my new loot away. I also replaced all the cobblestone on my floor to stone bricks because it looked nicer, and I fed my dragon some more. Then that night I realized I kept seeing a knight symbol on my mini-map, so this had to be one of the bosses I needed, the Feroz Rotnot. This was a new quest I needed, and lucky for me, it was right underneath the village I live right next to. So this guy's basically indestructible, especially if you hit him head on, but once he does those head heavy attacks, you can go behind him and attack that sword in his back and do a ton of damage. So I did just that and took this dude out, and I got a bunch of really cool rewards. I got his axe and a helmet, and then I came home to grab these quest rewards. Cause I really like that axe, I enchanted it with silk touch and efficiency. Then I grabbed a bunch of emeralds cause I needed an oceanographer so I can grab a bunch of prismarine crystals. Turns out sea lanterns drop prismarine crystals, so I got almost 2 stacks and made prismarite ingot and put them all on my brand new armor. So now my armor not only gives you underwater breathing, but it makes you faster underwater as well. I then used blazerite on my sword and my pickaxe. I think this just smelts and cooks everything. Day 61 to day 63, I learned that you could make a remote storage system with a bunch of network cables. So I moved a bunch of chests to the left, connected them all to this giant storage network route and a request table. All I needed now was a remote control, but at this point I didn't know you could force load chunks using this FTP mod, so I had a limit on how far I could actually reach my storage. Remember those goddess statue things? I completely forgot where the one near my village was, so I just spent the next few days looking around to find this thing because they give you extra hearts. Day 64 to day 65, I found the goddess statue. I placed it right next to my house, and I had 250 spirit orbs just from collecting the dungeons. So I had no idea using up all of this in the goddess statue would make me a god. Not only did this thing literally give me like 3 extra rows of heart, I also got this thing called a stamina vessel. I guess that's for the paragliders. I'm really not going to use that. I have a elytra wing. That's so stupid. I then made this thing called an explorer's compass, and I used it to find where a frost moth spawns. That's my next boss I need to find, and this dude was so far away. I literally found every single ice structure and ice mob possible. I'm not kidding, I'm pretty sure I traveled like almost 5,000 or 6,000 blocks, then I finally saw the boss bar appear on top of my head. I waited till the morning of day 66 to take this guy out. Turns out arrows don't do any damage, and this thing keeps freezing you, so it's super annoying to take out, but as long as you kite it, you can do a ton of damage to this guy. Honestly, I feel kind of like a bully. I really did not need those extra hearts. I was already basically unkillable. And after a few more hits, I killed Frostmaw and grabbed its drop, and turned out there was an ice dragon nest right in front of me. But my punch 3 bow was able to keep this dragon away, and I took it out pretty easily. I then collected a ton of ice dragon blood, got my quest reward, which was an ice dragon bone sword, made an advanced feeding upgrade, and went to the end to collect some endstone. Turns out if you have an enderologist, you can just buy gunpowder from this guy. So I made this thing called a quantum catcher, leveled this guy up until I could buy a bunch of firework rockets, and I kidnapped him. While this dude was in my inventory, I cleared a huge area in my old enchantment setup, and I wanted to make a huge area for both enchanting, putting a bunch of my enchanted books away, and a villager trading hall area. Right now I only needed a few villagers, so I placed like 4 spots, and I replaced every single torch with lanterns and placed down a bunch of these workshops, and also went to the village to kidnap more villagers. My librarian actually gave me a really sick trade, and I also grabbed this Flute of Friendship, which gave me the Hero of the Village effect. Day 70, I had more fun with the villagers. I grabbed this Fletcher, I put him in a boat and let him get turned into a zombie, then I cured him and I placed him back in his pen. Turns out this guy's trades did not even improve at all. What a waste of time. At least I was able to get more food and feed my dragon up a little bit more. Day 72 to day 74, I finally learned how to force load my chunks. Now I can access my inventory everywhere. I then found the perfect village to start a raid in. I used my raid horn to call it patrol, and I got the bad omen effect and started this raid. The first 2 waves were really easy, and it started getting a lot harder once a bunch of these crazy new mobs started spawning. There was even a huge squall golem, whatever this thing was. It was pretty easy to take out, but then the huge horde started coming in. Basically the hardest part of this raid for me was finding out where these mobs spawned, because some of them just spawned in a cave, some of them spawned in a hole, and some of these dudes are really cool. I've never seen mobs like this before, but after all of that, I managed to clear out this entire raid, get the Hero of the Village effect, and also take my quest reward, which is a bunch of really cool things. Day 75 to day 76, remember that huge monastery that I looted the top chests of? Well, it turns out those chests were the best chests. I went to take out this entire structure again, and it was a huge waste of time. The only thing that was valuable was a ton of bread and golden carrots. So I went back to the Baracco village, where right next to it I found a lightning dragon nest. And I don't think I've ever seen this lightning dragon before. I don't know if I have, but I killed it, took a bunch of lightning dragon blood, and I found this gatekeeper which sold a blue journal. Day 77 to day 80, you know what I haven't explored a lot of? The nether. So I jumped in, and the first thing I found was a structure that had 2 ancient debris, and I found these weird piglin watchtowers, and these places had some really good loot. I also managed to get my favorite achievement in the game. Right after that, I found a nether fortress where I got this thing called a Keystone of the Oblivion. Then I just found this mutant hoglin on a random little island. Then in this nether tower, I got a waystone and I teleported back home where I went mining for a quick little bit and I found this huge ancient forge. This might be important, so I marked it down, and when I came home, I got a bunch of upgrades. I made an indestructible blazerite shield, a tied trident, I put flame on my bow, and I got like Riptide 10 or something on my new trident, and look how far this thing launches me in the air. Day 81 to day 82, I made a blindfold and went to take down this Gorgon. If I wasn't wearing a blindfold, it's basically insta-death for me, so I grabbed the Gorgon head and I went back down to the deep dark. The main reason I came back was because I needed to kill one more variant of the Warden, and it was the big variant of the Warden, and I couldn't find it no matter what. You know what I could find though? A bunch of other Wardens that I just took down easily without even trying. Yep, as you can see, still no big Warden, but I grabbed a ton of loot and then I started getting hit by this invisible mob. I couldn't even see it, so I just managed to teleport home so I would heal. Turns out I gotta kill all the dragons again to complete the quest. Day 83 to day 84, you know what I haven't done in a while? Huge house upgrades. So the first thing I did was make a much nicer pen for the sheep because I knew I was gonna need these guys for a ton of dragon meal. I also fixed out all the dirt and I started making nice paths and lighting up this entire area to make this entire thing feel a lot nicer. Also, just for decorations, I got rid of the dragon hatching area, made a wood cutting area instead, and decorated the entire thing with a bunch of lamps and leaves. Day 85 to day 86, I fixed up the roof a little, then I teleported back to my nether portal pretty far away to go looking for a bunch of wither skeleton skulls. I needed a ton of these things so I can make a bunch of beacons, but along the way I got distracted by a huge bastion, got some really cool stuff in there. I found another piglin watchtower, got some more pork chops, which is going to be really important. Then I started killing a ton of wither skeletons and even a mutant wither. This is my first time seeing it. Day 87, in one of these houses I found an Everbright portal, and then I just broke right down underground to create space for a wither fight. Honestly, the first wither I fought here was actually super easy. This guy took no time at all. I just used melee attacks. I didn't even use my bow and I took it out so easily. For the second wither fight, I tried to keep my distance just for fun. I didn't want the wither ability, but even then it was super easy to take out and I got 2 nether stars. So day 88, I decided to check out this dimension, and the first thing it was telling me is that my sword wasn't working well here, even though it 2-shot everything. But to be safe, I made a pickaxe and an axe from this dimension. Then right after I made those tools, I found this giant wizard's tower. Now this place had a few mobs just roaming around, but once I killed all of them, I found this thing called a dungeon key. Turns out there were 4 of them scattered all across this entire wizard's tower. So at this point I had no idea what it was gonna do. All I knew was it was part of the quest, so I took my reward and I made it to the top of the tower, and it turned out to be a boss fight for something called the summoner. Since this message didn't go away, I thought my sword was gonna do no damage, but it actually did a ton of damage, and I managed to take out all of his minions and do an insane amount of damage to this summoner. I just rinsed and repeated that until the summoner was pretty low in health, and then I was able to take it out pretty easily and collect my quest reward. So just looking at my quest, I knew there was one more boss left, and I used my explorer compass to find its dungeon. Now this nature dungeon thing was gigantic. There was like 20 rooms to a floor, and there was like 4 floors, but I'll skip through all that and show you that I defeated every single one of these stoneling things, and I found the 4 keys for this dungeon. I actually have no idea what this boss battle is going to be. It was this thing called a Starlit Crusher, and thankfully I found an axe in one of the chests that was from this biome, and this thing kept spawning walls to protect itself from the hits. It kept telling me my weapon wasn't very efficient, but it did so much damage, I just didn't even listen to the message. But after this guy started doing a bunch of those spinning moves, it would always collapse, and some of these walls, so it was just rinse and repeat one more time. I just had to keep breaking those walls and just do a ton of damage to the Starlit Crusher. Then finally I was able to defeat this guy and clear this entire area for all of its bosses. I even picked up these cool things called arcs, which gave me 3 extra heart, and the other one gave me some movement speed. Day 91 to day 92, I got some wheat and I found a wither spawner. I didn't get a single wither skeleton skull, but I was able to come home, put sharpness 6 and looting 6 on my new sword, and I went to find a dragon's nest. It was super unlucky, it wasn't a fire dragon, but it was cool enough. Day 93 to day 94, I found this giant coliseum with a huge phantom, and I took that guy out and its rider pretty easily. Then later that night I finally found what I needed, a fire dragon. After that air duel, I managed to kill this dragon. Now there were 2 quests left, and lucky for me, an ice dragon spawned as soon as I came over to this ice spikes area. So this guy went under the water, and when he came out it looked really cool, but it was still no match. I started using my bow only, and I took it out and collected my quest rewards for that as well. Then to end this day off, I found this huge mining area with a bunch of zombies, and I destroyed every single one of them. Day 95 to day 96, while I was hunting for a lightning dragon, I found this huge dungeon. I called it a lava well because I had no idea what this thing was, but this place was stacked. It had so many wither spawners and even a mutant wither spawn as well. This is kind of just what I needed, a ton of withers at one spot. I managed to take out hundreds of these guys who were wearing like spider heads, and I picked up a ton of wither skeleton skulls. Also, the loot in here was insane. Every single one of these barrels was filled to the brim with a netherite ingot, and I stupidly got caught by another one of these guys' traps. Then for the rest of these days, I collected a bunch more wither skeleton skulls. I think I got about 8, and while I was still looking for a lightning dragon, I found another village that was overrun by Barako the Sun Chief. This guy was super easy to take out, and I managed to pick up a Cyclops Eye. As long as I have this in my offhand, I'm pretty sure it gives every single enemy weakness too, so now I'm pretty sure I just became way more invincible. So still no lightning dragons, but I was able to get a bunch of mending books by disenchanting, put Thorns 2 on my helmet, and grab a farmer. Day 98 to day 99, I spent this entire day just feeding my dragon and finally got it up to level 3, so now I could equip it with some armor and even ride it as well. Right after that, in a buzzer beater move, I found a lightning dragon nest and I was able to really easily take this guy out and complete every single one of the overworld quests. The reward was a sapphire dragon egg, which is the rarest, but before these days ended, I want to take down 2 more withers so I can build as many beacons as I want. On day 100, I decided to just build 1 beacon for now, and I used all of my gold and iron that I've been collecting to build this beacon right in front of my house. I even placed my waystone right on top of it. If you made it this far, make sure you leave a comment asking for 200 days, and if you want any more adventures, check out this video right here.